to say thank everybody for their cooperation. I think this has probably been the longest bill that I've ever been involved, other than the employment miscellaneous bill a number of years ago, which took a while. As I said earlier on, I do believe the bill is better today than it was when it arrived to us, Chair, but there still is some major flaws because of the omissions of this bill. But having said that, I want to thank the Minister for her engagement, because she's been always respectful to our ambitions, and I really do hope that we never find ourselves in a position of having to deal with the omissions. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Consideration of the bill. We move to Senator Eugine Murphy, and we're going to go clockwise.
We'll get very brief. Again, I just want to thank the Minister and thank everybody for their participation. But I would say to Senator Doherty and Senator Craughwell, I took very seriously what you were saying. And, you know, we would have concerns. I'd say we'd agree the bill is an awful lot better now than it was 2.5 years ago. And hopefully everything will run smoothly. But I would say, like, in terms of what you're trying to bring across there, is very serious stuff. And I wouldn't dismiss it, or I wouldn't make little of it at all. It's very important we had that debate. And of course, I know the Minister will thank her officials, but I always thank officials in these situations.
Take Senator Buttimer now. We leave the last word from the floor with one of the major contributors.
Can I just begin by saying that I want to thank the Minister and her officials for their perseverance, their tenacity and their ability to listen. Because, as Senator Murphy said, and there may have been a lot of turbulence in the air, the contributions of Senators Craughwell and my good friend Senator Doherty have lent to this bill being debated. And whilst there may be differences in the jet stream around what we're trying to achieve, ultimately, Cathaoirleach and Minister, this bill is about reform. In tandem with that, it is about safety, it's about security, it's about regulation, and it's also about consumer protection. And at the heart of our debate, in the nuances and in the amendments, the motivation has been about that. And having served as the chair of a committee, being here 15 years, hopefully mellowing and maturing a small bit, you have to listen to the wider engagement, and I hate using the word stakeholder, but those involved and those in the know. And whilst the Minister and those involved in the industry were very much of the view that this bill should be passed as a matter of urgency because it is an extremely important bill, there was a need to engage and to give the Minister credit that we should give today in this floor. She listened, she made amendments, notwithstanding the sincere views of my colleague Senator Doherty about the flaws, but that is what our parliamentary democracy is about, and that is what the importance of pre-legislative scrutiny is: making legislation better, ensuring that we get our ultimate achievement. And I raised issues at the beginning of the bill, having had representation from members of the staff around the vesting day, around our rights and entitlements in the transfer. But our aviation sector, Cathaoirleach, is a very important one. We're an island nation dependent upon connectivity, dependent upon airlines, and we're blessed. And if you go back to the Tusker documentary on RT recently, we have been very fortunate that we have had no similar type of an event, notwithstanding the contribution that Senator Craughwell has made around the issues of search and rescue. But my final contribution is we must thank the men and women who work for us and serve with us in the context of our air rescue, of our aviation in terms of air traffic control, of our pilots and flight crew. What they do is extremely important. Minister, thank you for your contribution and your participation and your engagement. Cathaoirleach, thank you for your chairing, and to thank Senator Harkin, by the way, in his absence, who was in the chair for a lot of it, who did a tremendous job. But to thank Senator Craughwell and Senator Doherty for teasing out and making this bill a better piece of legislation.
Indeed, Senator Buttimer, and I absolutely concur with your remarks about our colleague Senator Harkin in his absence. It's important to acknowledge. And I absolutely also concur with your remarks about our good colleagues Senator Doherty and Craughwell. Senator Craughwell, who was a main protagonist, for want of a better term, but a very sincere one now.
Thank you very much, Gerard. At the outset, I would like to acknowledge the officials who sit here for hours and hours on end, providing briefs to ministers, listening to what's being said, bringing that back to their department, and that's how amendments get made and get brought here. So I would like to acknowledge their presence here, and I would like to thank them for the work they do. It would be remiss of me not to thank IALPA for their engagement with us, with all of us, and their genuine concern for their members. And I particularly mention Captain Cullen here, who has been outstanding in the way in which he has engaged with me over the last couple of years on this bill. He, like myself and Senator Doherty, only wanted the best for his members, and as a former leader of a trade union, I can fully understand that. Minister, I want to thank you for your patience, because I know this was deeply frustrating for you. I know it was deeply difficult for you. We're both county people, we share the same county, and I really do acknowledge the work you've done and the way you have come along with this bill, and I want to thank you for that, because there is a genuineness about what you have done. So I really do appreciate that. I can't close without going back to our search and rescue, and I will appeal to you, Minister, for you and your officials to engage with me on the forthcoming SAR contract. It is simply not good enough to say it's already in black and white, we can't do anything about it. The United Kingdom has gotten 18 helicopters on 12 bases for 1.6 billion. We can do an awful lot better in this country for the citizens of this country. And hiding behind legislation or hiding behind EU regulations or claiming that people are working for people who are participants in the tendering process is grossly unfair, highly insulting to me, because my only wish is to get the best deal for Ireland and the best deal for our pilots and crews. I'll leave it at that, and thank you very much indeed.
Senator Craughwell. Minister.
Thank you, Catherlock, for chairing the session. I'd also like to thank senators for your contributions and your amendments proposed, some of which will now be included in the bill before it's returned to the Dáil. And while we may not have agreed on all the provisions in this bill, I think we've worked constructively to reach a compromise on a number of provisions, including crew peer support programmes, the amendment introduced following our engagements, which will require the IAA to undertake a review of the effectiveness of the crew peer support programmes. Also, the amendment providing for the IAA to convene an aviation stakeholders forum, and the provision requiring the IAA to publish a licence holders charter setting out the standards of engagement that will be undertaken by the IAA with the holders of licences. Our constructive engagement has also seen an amendment introduced reducing from 5 years to 3 years the time interval for statutory safety examinations of the IAA. Connected to this is the amendment removing the Minister's discretion to withhold publication and to require publication of the report on a website maintained by the government. Finally, an amendment to provide that the IAA consult with stakeholders in the preparation of its statement of strategy has been introduced. The bill provides for significant institutional changes to how aviation is regulated in Ireland. Specifically, at a high level, it provides for the separation of the IAA with the safety regulation side of the IAA to be merged with the Commission of Aviation Regulation (CAR) to create a standalone aviation regulator. The bill also sees new mechanisms being introduced with regard to aviation regulation and engagement. For example, the forum and charter and new responsibilities for the IAA in response to an aviation sector that has changed significantly over the last 29 years since the enactment of the Irish Aviation Authority Act in 1993. This bill, upon enactment, will make a real difference to how aviation is regulated in Ireland for the benefit of the travelling public and for the aviation industry alike. And finally, I would also like to thank my officials who have put in a significant amount of work on this bill and have been completely engaged right throughout the process and wanting to work with colleagues right across the House. And I want to thank the staff of the House here and everyone involved in bringing this legislation forward. Thank you.